Oh, another day, another Dynasty startup mock draft on the Dynasty roundtable. We have some anxious people in the I guess you'd call it the room, the sleeper room, the chat room, the draft room. So yeah, this is Superflex tight end premium. We're gonna have okay. Let me explain this to you, Matt Babich, so you don't get confused this time. Rookies are included. You're going to have to search for the rookies because Sleeper doesn't update their rankings really ever. So I would advise you before we get going, throw a few rookies in your queue maybe. I don't know. Um, so just a heads up. The rookies are included. There's no kickers as picks. So we'll get going here. Are you ready? Are you ready to go? Or
Yeah,
do
I'm
you
letting
need
the
a
chat know of this as well since we're not live.
Okay, yeah, we're not live. This is not live. This is pre-recorded. All right, all right, all right, all right. There we go. There we go. I yeah, that looks better. I didn't want somebody to take Jamar Chase number 1 overall if they didn't want to. There we go. Now we're cooking with
So now we're
gas.
rolling around what I was expecting
Now we're
there for
cooking with
the
gas.
101, 102, and 103. Literally my top tier quarterbacks all
Yeah.
right there in a row. So I mean if you're sitting there with the 101 and I chose the 108 for a reason, you chose the 112 for a reason. Are we in a world where in a third round reversal it's almost beneficial to be relieved of the burden of choice and get to the back of the draft?
Um maybe. I mean, I do think that there is tremendous value in being at the back half where we are, especially in a third round reversal. But you can't really deny that having the option to choose like
No,
Josh
I
Allen knows
100%.
like so I think it's pretty fair. Like I think third round reversal adds to the fairness factor.
It's certainly become my preferred way of drafting, especially for Dynasty. And I think that needs to redraft. I don't have as big of a push towards third round reversals, but we're talking Dynasty. Like there's such a bigger difference between the first half and the back half, especially in Superflex, that it's nice to have it evened out. We have our first receiver off the board at the
Jamar Chase.
105.
It's interesting. I remember the last mock draft you took Brock Bowers pretty high.
Well, it's tight end premium, yeah.
This is also tight end premium.
Oh shoot. Maybe I
Says,
probably won't do that again, but
well, it's not. I
I
don't
mean,
think it's a
maybe,
terrible pick.
honestly.
I mean, he was what was he third in targets overall or something crazy like that
Something
this year.
something bananas like that.
I'm working on a spreadsheet that's going to be pretty important to our rankings, and I'll have to see where he ranks in that metric that I created today that I told you about.
Yeah, we're gonna have to keep that quiet for a few
Pretty
weeks.
close, play it pretty close to the vest, yes, until hopefully nobody stumbles on it because I anyway, we'll tease this for later, but
We're gonna have a
we'll see.
lot of
It's got
timeouts
to
with
be.
the 1 minute, but we'll just let everybody go on auto pick and then
Yeah, this is. I knew this would happen.
that's all right. It happens in every mock, but we'll keep it at we'll keep it on auto pick to keep those picks moving. Jetta at 8. Let's get it bopping.
There you go. There you go. I can't really.
I probably should have
Can't.
taken Burrow, but I just took Jefferson.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to skin the cat, and like that's why I like drafting is so intriguing to me because I went
Yeah.
with Jefferson versus Burrow. I could very easily make both of those drafts work and be
Mm-hmm.
good. And then there's also, the factor that's very tough with mock drafts is the fact that there's obviously no trading.
Yes.
So in a
Yes.
real situation, like if I'm taking the 108 in the back of the draft, which at this point, is generally where I select in the back half if I can, I'm going to try and move back and like do what you did in the Dynasty Roundtable startup and, shop some of your picks and gain some of that future capital back.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is why I like the 12 spot, because I think it's a great opportunity to like experiment with roster construction. So but I do think that the choices are clear here. We'll go Amon Ra and Malik Neighbors,
I
and we'll
like
just
your I like your point that you're making there about experimenting with roster construction, because you can mock, and if you mock the same strategy 50 times, like cool, you've practiced one thing.
yep,
But and
yep.
I'm usually so quarterback heavy in super flex drafts that the last couple of times we've done these mocks, I've tried to, you know, change it up and see what happens when you take a Justin Jefferson, or like what Barry's doing with Gibbs and Brian Robinson, or Bijan Robinson, or Amon-Ra St. Brown and Neighbors, CeeDee Lamb, Bowers. Like, these are really creative combinations.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also nothing wrong with just playing it safe and taking your quarterbacks. Like Red Wards is doing here. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. So I think that's fine. And now you're on the clock, and
Yeah.
you have a decision to make. Justin Jefferson here is the pick that you made at the 108.
Yeah, so
And
I'm thinking about a certain wide receiver here, a quarterback, and even a running back.
gotcha. There you go.
And there he is.
That's not bad. That's not a bad pick.
It was mostly between him and Puka Nakua, and I kind of thought it's more fun to take Ashton Genty right now in this mock. So
Oh yeah.
we're gonna load it up with Genty, and we're gonna make this zero QB roster work.
So it's funny that you say that. So just for the podcast audience, because we have a podcast now, which you should subscribe to and leave us a 5-star review. I'm working on getting it uploaded to Apple Podcasts, but it's a straightforward process, but it just takes some processing time. Anyway, I know this is why everyone tunes in to figure out how big of a pain in the ass it is to make an Apple podcast. Justin Jefferson, Ashton Genty. I mean, there's a real world, and there's a lot of buzz around the fact that Ashton Genty's going to go a lot higher than we suspect. And there's more buzz than I would like there to be around him potentially going to the Chicago Bears at pick whatever that 10. I think they pick at 10.
Yeah, I mean, that would be massive.
Oh my god. I don't know whether I'd want to throw the remote at the TV or rejoice. It's like one of those deals.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's probably a massive misuse in capital.
Yeah. Yeah.
People will
Probably.
say it worked for the Lions and Jahmyr Gibbs, but correct me if I'm wrong. The Lions already had a much more established and talented, offensive front and a more stable core roster to this point. You guys are offensive loaded and should I say secondary loaded, or maybe just Jalen Johnson? But
yeah, I mean, the Kyler Gordon's a nice player, but I see your point.
Correct.
I see your point.
Oh, you guys, Brisker. I mean, your secondary and backers are good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, if there's not an opportunity to take best offensive lineman available or trade back, then yeah, there are ways to make that Genty pick worse, or to make that Genty pick work. It's just more of what do they do in the off season and how do they surround that pick in the other parts of the draft.
Yeah, no doubt. But the point in me saying that was Genty's going to have a good landing spot. It'd be hard to imagine a world where he winds up, I don't know, on the Ravens. Or that. Not that would be even the worst landing spot in the world, but you get what I'm saying. Like a spot
Right.
where you go, oh man, in year one, I don't know if that's really going to work well or not. So. I like that pick. I don't mind it whatsoever. And you have it's interesting that there's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people who have chosen to start without a quarterback in the first 2 rounds.
This is the most QB light through the first couple of rounds mock draft or draft that I've been a part of with Superflex. So I mean, revisionist history, or going back, it makes me happy that I went
Hmm.
zero quarterback here because a lot more opportunity to be had.
Yeah, and so I now have a decision of whether am I going to push this? Am I going to, what am I going to do here? And it's an interesting choice for me to make. Um, because there's so many different directions that you could go,
Yeah, absolutely.
but I think I'm just gonna lean into uh I think I'm just gonna keep on pushing it down.
Ooh, okay.
So I went Brees Hall. So my start is Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Brees Hall. Again, a young running back really provides me flexibility with the build where I can go in any direction that I want to go. I could, this is a win now team, or it could be, a younger team with some upside, or, probably not a productive struggle at this point. But I like that start. I really do. I thought about Bo Nix. I thought about Drake May. Though they're obviously not going to make it back to me. But I thought, you know what? Let's see. Let's test this. Let's see how far I can push quarterback. It might be a terrible decision, but there's some options that I like further
Hey, works.
down further
Damn
down
it.
the list, and you are not happy because Drake May is now off the board.
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, granted, I didn't necessarily expect him to make it to 3-5 anyway, but was starting to get my hopes up there. Sleeper definitely did its job of pushing him down the board. So I was kind of hoping that he'd go a little bit unnoticed there. If Bo Nix goes, I may join you in just pushing this thing further. I just
And
shouldn't have really said that because
we're not live.
I
We're not
spoke it
live
into
though.
existence. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying. I'm just. I spoke it into
Mm,
existence, and then
okay.
of
Well,
course it hath happened. Um.
now you're on the clock.
So let me
I mean, Jordan
see.
Love, that wouldn't be a bad pick, but I
It
don't want to tell you
wouldn't.
what to be,
It
what to
wouldn't
do.
be, but I'm going to take Trey McBride and go with the youth, lead into the tight end premium, and I think this is a good note to talk about in Superflex. And I would say you didn't practice this at the 3-1 because Drake May and Bo Nix, I think, were well within that tier of deserving to go there. I wouldn't scoff at anybody for taking Jordan Love or Kyler Murray at that spot. But I also think that the logic of there is better ROI for the cost that I'm going for here with a Trey McBride, with an elite receiver in a real draft, trading back or giving up the pick, than it is to grab, a mid-tier quarterback that could be outscored by Baker Mayfield for a couple more seasons until you get another quarterback.
Yeah. And that's kind of,
This quarterback's coming in the draft every year, 3-4. They're always at the top
yeah.
of the draft. Like people are always going to need quarterbacks.
Yeah,
NFL teams.
when I look at my own dynasty rankings, I probably should have taken. I knew what my dynasty rankings were going to say. They would have said Bo Nix, Drake May. Um, uh, so that's probably what I should have done. But this going into this, I wanted to see, okay, how far can I push quarterback, and is this going to be a good strategy entering the dynasty startup? So I mean, mock drafts can serve a purpose, and this is kind of what I'm doing with this one. So I don't know. I don't know how everybody feels about that, but that's kind of why I did that. Like in a normal dynasty startup, I probably would have taken Drake May, just because that's where the value is. And I don't really like running backs, but it's like, okay, let me see if I can do something that's a little bit outside of my comfort zone and
Right.
try to build a win now team, because I feel like that's the. I know I said I could go in either direction, but I feel like the direction to go now that I made the Brees Hall choice is probably more of a win now build.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but that's the beauty of what you've done here to start to start your draft. Not only do you have youth on your team, but you also have elite assets that are ready to produce at that high level right now. That's why you certainly don't have to go that young or not take anybody who's old or past the age apex in your first 3 rounds. But if you're able to load up on talent that is on the right side of youth, that is obviously going to be even more in your favor because you can continue to be flexible down the draft. Even though you said you're looking more like a win now team, like you're still not confounded by anything just yet.
Right. That's a good way to say it.
So I'm coming back up on the clock here. There's some quarterbacks. I don't really want any of these guys.
I'm just gonna say this because we're pre-recording and I don't know what you're gonna do, and it's a mock draft. And anyway, I'm kind of surprised he just went there, so it's fine to talk. I'm kind of surprised that Trevor Lawrence lasted until
I was gonna
round.
end up taking Trevor Lawrence if he got there. I don't love it really right now. It's not my favorite, but let's be honest. Like, do we really think Trevor Lawrence is gonna? I mean, we saw what Liam Cohen did with Baker Mayfield in that offense. The Jags have pieces. It's really just, can they be competent?
Yeah, exactly. And I know, and I mean, I don't know if we need to do like a deep dive into this or not. Nice pick. He was in my queue. But like you remember when Dan Campbell had his biting kneecaps press conference?
Yes.
Like, at some point, I don't really care about the press conference. Nick Sirianni had a terrible press conference. I mean, I don't care about the press conference. I'll just say that right now.
Yeah, and I don't really. I think the biggest thing are the issues with him like lying to the Buccaneers through this process, and then in his press conference saying, I'm all about honesty and like open transparency and professionalism. Is that kind of going to be an issue? Like, are we going to get another? Is he a locker? Like, is he a good leader of men? Like, the only way Trevor Lawrence doesn't improve is if Liam Cohen is truly exactly what he appeared to be in that saga between Tampa and Jacksonville. Granted, it's a tough situation to be in. You have your dream job of being a head coach. You also want the security of the job that Tampa Bay is offering. And they're telling you, like, we're only going to give you this deal if you don't go take this second interview. Like, that's pretty tough to navigate. So I can't judge him too harshly or say I wouldn't have tried a similar thing. But I tend to believe that the Jaguars are going to take a massive step forward next year.
Yeah, I would. I don't know. I would hesitate to say massive, but I get what you're saying.
Well, look what we saw last year.
Yeah.
Above average would be a massive step forward. Great pick. I can't believe I didn't think of Rashee Rice.
Yeah, it kind of limits me now. I mean, I'm really going to test this theory because it's going to be between another wide receiver and a running back. Wow. We'll just do this.
All right. Yeah.
So for the podcast audience, I just chose Rashee Rice and Rome Odunze at the 4-5 turn. So officially, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Brees Hall, Rashee Rice, and Rome Odunze is how I've started. And yeah, I feel good about that. And you go quick, and we're going quickly through this 5th round here. You chose Brock Purdy. Talk to me about Brock Purdy in the 5th round. And are you concerned at all about the contract, or do you think that there's value in taking him because of the uncertainty there?
I suppose I believe there's value in the uncertainty. I believe, here's what I believe. I believe Brock Purdy is a top 32 quarterback in the NFL. I believe that San Francisco is going to try their hardest.
Going out on a limb there.
Well, I'm getting to the point. Wait for me.
Okay. All right.
I believe that San Francisco is going to try their hardest to keep Brock Purdy in the building. He's young. He has finished 6th and 10th in fantasy points per game. Yes, he's, a bit of a glorified game manager, but you know what? So is Jared Goff, and he's had a lot of good fantasy seasons under good coordinators. So let's think about the options. Okay, let's say he doesn't end up in San Francisco. We're looking at a lot of teams that need a quarterback, not a lot of teams that are probably going to sign Brock Purdy. Like maybe Minnesota if they want to do another rental, where they don't believe that JJ McCarthy's ready to. They could have been a NFC championship. They could have been in the NFC championship game. So if they don't believe that JJ McCarthy can get them to what clearly could be a Super Bowl team based on what we saw, maybe they go with a guy like Brock Purdy. I just don't think I in these situations we went with Ayuk last year and like the Lamar Jackson drama, a couple of years back. I just think the likelihood that these quarterbacks stay on their team is pretty high, and there's going to be a lot of offseason drama. But I think it ends with Brock Purdy playing in San Francisco because what in the world does San Francisco do without him? I know we used to talk about Brock Purdy probably being replaceable and like just a guy, but like, let's really think it through. Like, what do they do if they move on from Brock Purdy?
I don't know. I mean,
they have no
draft Kyle McCord and hope he's good.
or draft Jackson Dart. Like,
well, that's not going to happen now.
He's probably going to be like hype. A top 12 pick based on the hype, which is another type of absurd. But
yeah, it's the perfect storm. As you're on the clock and I'll talk so you can make your pick. It's the perfect storm with Jackson Dart because A, it's not a good quarterback class, and B, he looked good at the Senior Bowl. So, and I think his tape's pretty good, to be honest with you. I think he's a good prospect, especially in this class, but like I don't think he's all world. If what I was saying before the Senior Bowl is I would wait until the second or third round and take Jackson Dart as opposed to taking Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, in the top 5. And I still believe that, but the problem is he's obviously not going to last until the second or third round, most likely. So again, as you took Josh Jacobs there. So that's kind of my take on Jackson Dart. Like the prospect, but it feels like the pendulum swinging to, he's probably going to be overrated now. So that's just what I'll say.
There we go. Well said.
All right. This pick is, I'm not going to lie, it's looking pretty good for me. Pretty. If
ooh, okay.
pretty good.
You are very excited over something. I'm trying to figure out exactly what it might be. I'm thinking maybe it's a wide receiver. Unless you want to go quarterback here.
There's a huge, and I'll wait until Q's makes his pick. But I'll just say this: there's a huge drop off from one of these quarterbacks to the next, in my opinion. But
yeah, you're right. We'll see. And I probably should have taken him instead of Jacobs to round out my.
We'll see. Yeah,
round out my quarterbacks.
Okay, good. I'll take JJ McCarthy. I know he's coming off an injury, but that's cool. And I guess I'll take Omarion Hampton as well.
Nice.
So I feel good about those 2 picks. I wish I had 3 picks there so I could take another person, but that's always how it goes in a dynasty startup. I wish I had the whole round to just take everybody.
So Zane's the burden of choice, man.
And that's literally what I do sometimes in a dynasty startups. Like if you've seen what kind of craziness I can get up to in a startup, and I don't know, like I just trade like a madman.
Yeah, I mean, to your credit though, you've been paving a nice path, and you ended up doing really well in that draft, all things considered.
Yeah, I got a little bit unlucky this year with some of my matchups, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Call me crazy.
I don't hate it, man. Which, if anybody, for the podcast audience, he just selected Bryce Young. I don't think it's a bad pick. I think he is. We saw it towards the end of this past season with Dave Canales. We knew it wasn't gonna. I mean, it wasn't gonna happen overnight, but I like the coach. It's an offensive-minded head coach, and it looked like he was starting to click. You know.
Yeah, and to Dave Canales' credit, like a lot of people freaked out when the benching happened, but it was very clear based on Bryce Young's performance when he came back what that conversation was behind the scenes. And you could tell that, yes, he was dejected, but it was clear when he came back that there was a clear focus on, like, you are our guy. We need you to take a step back and develop you a little bit more behind the scenes before these habits continue to solidify and we lose you. And that's what happened. He sat, it was only for a little bit, but whether it was even just a confidence reset, a mental reset is huge for, a kid who's that young, first overall pick, massive trade haul for the team to get him, and a complete letdown in year one. That's a very tough thing to deal with. You are the franchise quarterback of an entire city. I couldn't imagine having that weight on my shoulders. So we saw at the end of the season, 23.6, 13.5, 14.0, 27.1, 16.9, 36.4. That's fantasy points from weeks 13 to 18. Even had a 16-point fantasy performance in week 12. Yeah, it's Kansas City game that really opened it up, actually, in week 12.
Which that was a low-key impressive performance. And I know there's every possibility that Kansas City was looking ahead to something, but
still. I mean, really every team from then on, they played to the brink. They were pushing everybody. They pushed Philly that next week. They pushed Tampa. Dallas sucks, but they pushed Tampa again. They pushed Atlanta in week 18.
Yeah. No,
and Atlanta was fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah. No, I mean, who would you rather be in that division? I mean, I think the answer might be obvious to some people, but would you rather be Atlanta or Carolina with Michael Penix? Like, because Michael Penix went in round 6 at the 6'10" in this draft, and Bryce Young, you took him at the 7'5", and I think it's pretty close. And I think most people, like, if we put a Twitter poll out there, they'd say, "Oh, Michael Penix, easy." Bryce Young sucks. It's like, I don't know. I think it's a lot closer than you think.
I was going to say the opposite, just because I don't know if I've seen enough from Penix to be confident in him. I think there was a lot to like there, but there was some rawness there.
And that's my point. Like,
but it could be literally just transitioning to a left-handed quarterback mid-season. Like, that's not. But a lot of it was accuracy issues, not necessarily the connection between the wide receiver and the quarterback.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, Drake London was really happy with Michael Penix.
Yeah, he was having a decent year already, but Penix and him were like glue. Darnell Mooney was really the one who definitely didn't like the arrival of Michael Penix Jr.
and Ray McLeod.
Yep.
I couldn't believe that at the beginning of the year that Ray McLeod was getting as much hype as he was.
All right, I have to. I wanted to make a different pick, but I simply have to make this one.
Let me see if I'm. Yep, that's a good pick.
I just knew for maybe so Caleb Johnson off the board here in the 8th round for me. Game theory, you have to know the people you're drafting with, and I knew there was no shot Caleb Johnson was making it 2 picks past Seth Dewald. So I had to pocket my other pick. Hopefully he makes it back here on this turn. But you were definitely going to take Caleb Johnson with one of your 2 picks, correct?
I almost took him at the 6-7 turn. But I just, like I said, I had to take McCarthy and I had to take Omarion Hampton, who, Omarion Hampton just has another year of elite production over Caleb Johnson. And I'm just now digging into the film on Caleb Johnson. This month is really, like, by the end of February, not to get off on a on a separate point. But by the end of February, I'll have probably watched somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 prospects, like dug in deep to the all 22. So I'll
How's it
be a
feel?
um, man. Sorry, you asked me a question and then Kelsey got taken in the startup. So uh, I'll do this, I guess.
Like that?
Um,
Okay.
Quinshawn Judkins, I took, and let me just make sure I'm not missing anybody that I should take. Let me make sure he's gone. Okay. I guess
Hooey.
I don't
Good
know.
quarterback.
Nah, no thanks.
TJ Hawkinson. I like that. I mean, his value has been pushed down pretty far. You were not, before the injury, able to get TJ Hawkinson at that level. And coming back, not 100%. Dude,
Buka.
Barry is killing me. Barry is killing me. First Bo
That's a
Nix
great
and then
pick.
Igbuka. So that was the sacrifice. I sacrificed Igbuka to get Caleb Johnson, thinking that maybe Igbuka can make it back to me, but he was unable to. That really puts me in a bind because now I don't really know what I want to do here. I have an idea, but it's risky and I don't know if I like it. But
Well,
I'm going
you're
to do it for the sake of time.
DeAndre Swift. Wow.
No, Chris Godwin. DeAndre Swift got auto
Oh,
drafted.
yeah. Okay. Chris
Not
Godwin.
catching me draft DeAndre Swift in these streets. But actually, if
Yeah.
he survives the draft, I actually think Swift could be a big value this year. I don't know if that's going to happen yet. I
Yeah.
don't know if Ben's probably going to want a guy.
DeAndre Swift is all but. I mean, it's all over, but the singing. I think.
Yes, I would agree.
Like
I'm glad you agree
I
as
think
well.
this is probably this is in my opinion this is probably the last year he's on the Bears, and I think that there's a chance that he doesn't make it to the regular season on the roster.
I wouldn't be
But
surprised
we'll
at all.
see. We'll see, because I think it's like an $8 million dead cap hit. I could look that up real quick, but it's not a ton to get out of the contract or trade him. I guess they could trade him for something, but if it's any consolation, what Detroit got for him, they're not going to get much, obviously, because he's a running back and all that stuff. But there's so many good running backs in this draft, and I could just see Ben Johnson. It doesn't have to be Ashton Genty. I could just see him loving like Travion Henderson or somebody like that. That seems like a style of running back that Ben Johnson would really like, and then you could pair him. I mean, really, you could pair a Travion Henderson with another bruiser that you could take later on, like I don't know, an Ollie Gordon. Like, I'm not saying the Bears are going to draft their whole running back room this year, but I'm just saying I don't think DeAndre Swift and Ben Johnson are going to mesh all that well, because there's history there where they, and not to say Ben Johnson made the trade or whatever, but you get what I mean. The Lions traded away
do get what you
DeAndre
mean.
Swift. So,
Man, I'm just stuck in a difficult spot again.
if Matt Babbage is on the clock, Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I feel
This
like I'm
is
losing my touch a little bit.
I think you're gonna kick yourself. Yeah, Khalil Shakir.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
But it's not a.
I've lost the ability to be able to scroll through rankings outside of this app and keep up with like where the draft is at. And so that's why I say I'm losing my touch, because I can't keep track of where people are in sleeper and who hasn't been drafted. It was easier to do in like the 5th and 6th round, and now I did a lot better than last time, because last time I didn't have any rankings pulled up. I was just going off of the sleeper rankings, and it killed me the entire draft. At least this time I lasted until round 10.
Well, the minute is helping. I think the
minute is helping. But
Yeah,
what would really help is the sleepers' ability, if they would add the ability for me to import my own rankings like Underdog does. And so that way I don't have to worry about it, and Shakir would have been like at the top of my board.
No, I hear you.
They're like a $1 billion company at this point. They're like a $50 million company at the very least, $100 million company.
Yeah, and I don't know why I'm doing this, but I mean, he's at the top of the list here. It's so tempting to just take him. I have 10 seconds to figure it out, but I don't know why I'm insisting on going productive struggle here, but it's just I can't help but just take the value when I see it. So I'll take Trey Harris.
Yeah, he was on my list too, and again, probably I'm kicking myself for that one.
And man, Jackson Dart went this 10th round, huh? The hype train. That's actually not a bad pick in the 10th round.
I mean, depending on where he goes, yeah, for sure.
So I am hurting at the QB spot. So I think this is going to be a blah pick probably, but this will solidify a quarterback spot for me. Derek Carr. It's not, it kind of makes you vomit in your mouth a little bit.
I was also considering him at my last pick.
So I go Trey Harris, Derek Carr at the 10-11 turn. And don't you worry. I know what you're thinking, podcast audience, if you've listened this far. We have no idea what these teams are that they're drafting. Don't worry. There's going to be a section later on. We're going to review our teams. Who knows? We might even start a league. We're not sure what we're going to do, but we're definitely going to review these teams, talk about them, our strategy. Obviously, there's a clock factor to this, which is, it's a mock draft, so we don't have like the whole 8-hour clock where we can go in and to our spreadsheets and really grind some numbers.
Well, at the very least, when I'm doing live drafts, like I'm not having to record it generally on a podcast, and so I can really sit down and say like, okay, Montgomery got cross him off, and I'm working with my rankings in real time, so you have to worry about. I don't care about grinding. If you're grinding numbers in a draft, I don't know. I feel like you've lost the plot a little bit. I feel like you should be mostly just keeping track of, who's available. You should already have your plan and where you want to and who you have ranked above other people. I like Ollie Gordon right there.
That's a good pick. I like that too. There's so many good rookies I think still available. And I know I'm giving kind of the farm away to maybe you, but there's some guys I like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my rookie rankings right now. It's going to be really interesting to see how this draft goes, because there's such a damn
Golden.
We're doing this, huh? Round. We are really doing this.
Yep. How do you feel? Because I haven't had a chance.
Anytime a player just screams up, anytime a Power 5 conference player starts screaming up, like after the Senior Bowl or at the Senior Bowl, I start to just question things a little bit. Because, like, you're going to tell me that I'm supposed to weigh your game against a bunch of seniors, people who couldn't get drafted as underclassmen, and, people who have never played together. Like, I'm supposed to take this week of one-on-one drills and in this Senior Bowl game, I'm supposed to weigh that more heavily than what you did, like the body of work in your career. Matthew Golden's body of work didn't really get him to this level. The Senior Bowl did. And that's just, and these like last couple weeks have. It's really weird. and it makes me question, like, are we thinking about the right things when we're, maybe we are, like, maybe he's the real deal, but every time this happens, I just kind of have to sit and question, like, what's
the truth here?
what's the truth here?
What's really, like, what's a reasonable expectation to have for Matthew Golden? I mean, I think it's a little.
Did I miss Dylan Sampson getting drafted, or is he just not there?
He's just not here, I don't think.
All right. Well,
let me look real quick.
Rashard Smith's not there either.
Yeah, he is.
Where?
Or no, he must have got drafted then, because I looked for him, and yeah, he's in here. Do you want me to?
Yeah. Please
pause. All right.
Now, when freaking sleeper! It was on receivers.
All right. Go ahead.
Sorry. I got it on it. Just resume it.
Okay. Let's see. Resume. Nope, you messed it up again.
How? Oh, it's because I'm freaking on auto pick.
Oh.
Sleeper is the worst sometimes. Like, it shouldn't be this difficult, Sleeper.
Here, I'll just
hire me as one of your product leaders, and I promise you all of this bad stuff is going to go away.
Oh, where's Rashard Smith? There he is. I had to just type in Rashard, not Smith. There we go.
Sleeper.
Now
again,
get yourself,
advertisement. Hire me. I will fix all of this.
Take yourself off auto pick.
I would have loved to. I had to switch to my other screen because if it's not in full screen view, you don't have the option to take yourself off of auto pick. Again, another problem of sleepers.
I hustled you and I didn't even mean to. Dylan Sampson is definitely in here.
It's fine. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay. I swear to God, I looked up his name and he wasn't there. Did Sleeper just make an update real quick? Oh my God. How did we miss Jalen McMillan? How do we always do this? How did everybody miss Jalen McMillan this far down?
Anytime you draft on Sleeper, there is going, unless it's a serious draft where everyone is looking at their rankings, there is always going to be somebody that slips through the cracks. Can you toggle off the settings?
Oh shoot. I see.
Again,
this is what happens. This is what happens when I'm drafting on a different screen than I'm displaying here for the audience because I'm sneaky like that.
I like the James Conner pick all the way down here. Talking pure value, like 12th round James Conner for a win now team could be very valuable.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I mean, for sure, I concur with that assessment.
I concur. I'm glad you concur.
We'll go Russ. Again, I'm just trying to piecemeal my quarterback situation together, and I think I'm at a point where I think this is a value too. So I'll go in that direction.
Nice.
So I went Russell Wilson, Brian Robinson. I think Russ is going to be the guy in Pittsburgh. I've been hearing otherwise, that maybe Justin Fields is going to be the guy. I don't know, man. I do think Justin Fields is going to be a value, just not at this point in the draft.
Yeah,
but
I agree. I like Russ there.
I would have a hard time, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I would have a hard time believing that Russell Wilson's not going to be a starting quarterback somewhere.
I would find it very hard to believe.
Because, you have Pete Carroll taking the Raiders.
Damn it.
What?
I tried to auto-click Ricky Pearsall and Redwoods got him. Shoot.
Oh
well, just keep it going. We're in the 13th round here of a Dynasty startup mock draft. I'm not gonna.
Very intense.
I'm not gonna split hairs that much and keep people's nights up. But let's just say I would have doubled down and went back on Dylan Sampson right there if I would have caught that.
Oh,
I've been
okay.
getting sniped a lot in this mock.
I know, man. This is no joke. We've got some real
Or I might have went to
truthers
Jacoby
out here.
Myers, maybe.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick. That wouldn't be a bad pick. Me personally, just playing the value game, I probably would have gone a rookie there. Probably Samson, but
Yeah, for sure.
Dame,
I was leaning. I would have leaned Samson if I would have noticed that, but I did not. But that's okay. That's part of drafting and part of being sharp is paying attention. So maybe I should. Maybe that's a little lesson that I'll learn today. Pay attention.
perhaps.
Martinez in the 13th round is interesting.
That's another prospect I'm intrigued by, and I need to do more film work on. And he will be, and Jack Beck. So he's this R Stern 33 is clearly going the rookie route with his last 3 picks there. Actually, last 5 picks. He went Jackson Dart, Matthew Golden, Loveland at tight end, Damian Martinez, and Jack Beck.
Redwoods is listening somehow. he's somehow he's listening.
He's patched in. He's patched. He has a feed somewhere. He's getting in here. All right, I need to check my rookie rankings to make sure that there's no values. It's not my pick yet, but it almost is. DJ Giddens was the last pick that was made in the 14th round. So we're almost done. I'm surprised it went this quick.
I was just gonna say shout out to the draft lobby. We did have a few autos, but for taking a few minutes to get the mock started, and then my whole fiasco with Brashard Smith, 50 minutes ish for a 15 round Superflex mock with minute long picks is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Oh, immediately going back to Justin Fields. That's interesting.
Yeah. I also think he'll have a starting job somewhere, or he'll have a good shot to get one. And he's my as your QB4. Why the hell not? Why?
Right, for sure.
Why the hell not? And is Kirk Cousins over the hill? Is he just done?
I don't know. It's different. On one hand, it's different from like Rodgers because Kirk's Kirk's Achilles tear was on his plant leg, which was always going to make it harder for him to recover. Like just so much more pressure and force that you have to put on that versus your front foot, which is what Rodgers was. So there is a chance that after this offseason and he gets fully healthy, that he is better and back to, dare I say, closer to what we saw 2 years ago. I think it's more than likely that he's over the hill. But regardless, not a bad stash in the 15th round. I kind of want to take Tez Johnson just for flash, but in reality, I should be getting a 4th quarterback here at some point. I really don't want any of these quarterbacks in any way, shape, or form is the issue.
There is an Armageddon. Just looking at my team, and we'll review.
I'll trade. I'm going to trade for one of your quarterbacks for sure.
No, there's an Armageddon scenario for my team, for real. Like at quarterback, I mean, like, what if JJ McCarthy's not good? What if Derek Carr just sucks? What if Russell Wilson has pissed off every team in the NFL? What if Justin Fields finds a backup spot somewhere, and then Kirk Cousins not good? Like
you just need one guy.
Like I've drafted 5 quarterbacks that could just turn out to be just complete zeros. But hey, man, you got to take stabs, and that's what you got to do if you. That's what you got to do if you push quarterback down. Just hopefully you can get a couple of these guys to be like top 16 options at the position. So that is the draft. We did it. So let's scroll back up to the top. And do you want to start with your team or my team?
Sure. I'll go first.
All right. There you go. There's your
All right.
team.
So we started off with a little bit of youth and premium positions outside of quarterback. So we're getting our stars at receiver, tight end, and running back in a tight end premium draft. So we went Jefferson, then Genty, then Trey McBride. Went and continued the receiving core with Lad McConkey. Love that young asset that's still going to be producing at an elite level. Got our quarterbacks and another veteran running back in the next 3 stretches of picks with Brock Purdy in the 5th, Josh Jacobs in the 6th. Love that value on a 26-year-old bell cow running back towards the end of the 6th round for Josh Jacobs. Woo! And then Bryce Young in the 7th. Rookie running back who maybe should be a first-round pick, Caleb Johnson in the 8th round. We went back-to-back with receivers in the 9th and 10th with Chris Godwin and Christian Kirk. Got our QB3 in the 11th with Geno Smith. Went with a rookie running back in the 12th with Brashard Smith.
Nope.
And if
you need me to scroll down. I'm asleep at the wheel here.
Wanted to go with Dylan Sampson or Ricky Pearsall and then accidentally clicked on Hollywood Brown, so we'll live with that mistake. Ended up getting Sampson back in the 14th round and then Tez Johnson in the 15th as I revolted quarterbacks since Seth took all of them in 4 to the last 5 rounds.
I went to the dumpster pile to get the quarterback.
I was hoping you would. I was literally hoping for one of the 4, and you didn't give me any of them.
Nice. I did my job. All right, so my team, the better team, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Breece Hall, my first 3 selections, then Rashee Rice, Rome Odunze, J.J. McCarthy, Omarion Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, T.J. Hawkinson, Trey Harris. Then I go dumpster diving for quarterbacks, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Brian Robinson, Justin Fields, and Kirk Cousins. So let's find a team that that you're intrigued by. And there's a team, I'll just go ahead and say it. Look at our Stearns team. Like, he started this draft very, like, going this anti-quarterback strategy with Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr., A.J. Brown, Kyron Williams, bam, bam, bam. And then he goes Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, 2 solid QBs. Then Xavier Worthy. All right, I can get behind it. George Kittle. All right, another win now move. Tyrone Tracy. Okay. But then I'm not sure what happens here. Because I would see this as a win now team, wouldn't you? Like, these are win now moves that he's making.
Yeah.
And then he goes Jackson Dart, Matthew Golden, Colston Loveland, Damian Martinez, Jack Beck, and then J.K. Dobbins for good measure. So I liked what he was doing, and I still don't hate it because I still think this team can be really good. But, like, if you would have gone, say, I don't know, maybe I'm talking out my you-know-what here because I don't really see that too many. Like, what about Khalil Shakir instead of Jackson Dart? What about Cortland Sutton instead of Jackson Dart? What about, it might not be sexy, but Najee Harris over Matthew Golden? Like, I guess.
Absolutely. McMillan over Loveland.
Like, McMillan would have been a nice pick for everybody. That was the fall between the cracks player in this startup. But I don't know. I liked what he did overall, so I'm not trying to rain on his parade, but I think it could have been I wish he would have stuck with the strategy is all, but that's just my 2 cents. Anyway, is there a team here that
I'm looking
intrigues you
to see? I think Maddie went an interesting route.
Yeah,
having faith in Cooper Kupp. So, like, obviously you have Nakua and Luther Burden, which are going to be a good wide receiver pair, and then Henderson's going to be in one of his flexes. The Reed Kupp Judy Ridley stretch is interesting.
I know. I agree with you.
It's like the kombucha girl meme where, like, I can't really figure out how I feel about it, where I'm like, maybe. No. Unless. No. Jaden Reed and Cup were.
Oh, is that
I
what
like.
that is?
I like. Yeah. That's what that is.
The
It's
kombucha girl. Is that what
yeah.
it's called?
That's what it's called.
All right. I had no
um,
idea.
I really don't hate the Judy and Ridley picks at cost. It's Reed and Cup that have me concerned. I'm very concerned for Cooper Cup after last year, and I'm very concerned for Jaden Reed after not growing last year.
Yeah, Jaden Reed, I was frantically trying to trade him away at the trade deadline of all my dynasty leagues, and I was successful. And like I traded on a team where I'm going to be rebuilding. I traded Jaden Reed and Calvin Ridley for a 2025 first and a 2025 second, and I was super happy with that. And it looks like, according to this dynasty startup, that I got a pretty good deal there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jaden Reed, like just go look at his snap shares and look at that crowded wide receiver room in Green Bay, and I don't know, man. There are going to be games where he pops off. I mean, he's I hate to say this, but the very definition of better in best ball. And I don't know where he's getting drafted. I would assume Jaden Reed, like there's probably a bitter taste in some people's mouth with him, so I would assume he's down the best ball rankings.
Oh.
I'm not like Tyler Knabley, and I'm not in them best ball streets in February yet. I will get there, but not yet.
43 minutes ago, Cooper Kupp was tweeted that he was informed that the Rams are seeking a trade and are going to work with him to find the best destination. So the Rams are moving on from Cooper Kupp.
Is this fake news? Is this
No,
real?
this is his real Twitter account.
What's
I was
his-
informed
what's
that the team will be seeking a trade immediately and will be working with me and my family to find the right place to continue competing for championships. I don't agree with the decision and always believed it was going to begin and end in LA. There's a lot more than that, but that was the first paragraph.
Okay. Oh, well, all right.
That's
Little
interesting.
Breaking news there.
That is interesting.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know, because I couldn't tell if it was Cooper Kupp. That was the problem. And it was hard because I had my fantasy bias glasses on because I had him in my home league that I had a lot riding on. But it just seemed like that Matthew Stafford was looking for anybody other than Cooper Kupp to throw the ball to. Every time he snapped back, like every time he stepped back to pass, he was thinking, "How could I throw this ball to Puka Nacua?"
Yeah.
And Puka's really good, so it's not that I blame him. And then you could tell, like even when he was targeting Cooper Kupp, like the passes were just off. Like their chemistry just did not look the same, and it could be both players just aging, and Puka being the young stallion that Stafford needs to hitch his wagon to keep being a starter in this league. I don't know, but it seems, whether it's age or whatever else, that a new destination could be the best thing for Cooper Kupp at this point in his career. Hell, Adam Thielen was able to make something out of nothing in Carolina with his age.
Maybe the Bears will get him and he can take the Keenan Allen role, so Roma Dunze will not do anything again. Okay, that's interesting. That is interesting. We'll have much time to speculate on the potential destination for Cooper Kupp. But yeah, a little breaking news. I'm seeing it right now. If this is indeed him and not some imposter,
it is him. 207,000 followers.
I'm so paranoid, man. We've what was it? It was kind of hilarious. I can't even remember, but it was like it was during the season, and if you're in the content game during the season, you know that the season's a grind. So I was probably on my 12th hour, 14th hour of working, and I saw what I thought was Adam Schefter tweeting, but it turned out to be Adam Scheffler, one of those fake accounts. Fell for it. God.
Classic.
And then I was like, oh, this is, and then I added it to my video script and had to make some apologies later. We're always trying to get better here. So are there any other teams that we should look at in your opinion? We looked at Maddie's, we looked at our Stearns. Any other team that jumps off the page to
I got
you?
a little distracted by the Cooper Kupp news, but
It's
I
all
like
good.
what Imperita 17. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. Elite quarterback. Probably didn't need Darnold in the 7th, but always good to get your backup there. Has a slew of elite talent at receiver. Downs, Leggett to kind of square out the depth. And then Kamara, Ollie Gordon, little weak at running back. Excuse me, goodness. But Njoku likely at the tight end spot for tight end premium. Like this is not a bad start.
I don't really like this team.
I don't know, man. You want me to talk about teams? Yeah, you wanted me to talk about teams. I tried to pick a team. I'm sorry I didn't pick the right team.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I just disagree with you. I think my team's better. But anyway, it's okay.
I didn't say it was better than your team. You just said, do you think there are any other teams we should talk about? And I said this was interesting.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to to speak, and let your voice be heard. It's for the
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Babbage_Matt10.
This is a wrap. Here. Go ahead.
Well, the real answer was no. There are no other teams on the board that I think are.
All these teams suck. They all suck.
But that's super rude of me to say. So I'm not trying to. So I'm not trying to
admit it. So you admit it. I don't want to talk about any of these teams. They're all terrible.
I gotta talk to my dad about why we're drafting Kyle Pitts in the 6th round.
That's wow.
In the day of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ 2025, we should not be drafting Kyle Pitts in the 6th round.
I'm just trying to pretend like Kyle Pitts doesn't exist because every time I think about him, I'm like, oh, why?
Yeah, remember when you told me he was better than Trey McBride?
I do remember, and I'm ashamed of myself for that take.
Yeah,
that was a terrible.
I'm gonna make sure your headstone reads Seth Ewald thought Kyle Pitts was better than Trey McBride.
Yeah, and I think that's how we should end the episode. Go follow Matt Babbage at Babbage_Matt10. You can follow me on Twitter at Seth_DIEWOLD. Like, subscribe. What are you doing? Go do it. All you got to do is click a few buttons. Follow the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast. Links in the description. And until next time, nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers. We'll see you later, everybody. Have a great night, morning, day, wherever you are in your day. Have a great portion of it. We'll see you next time.